Hey, yo, Fro Wrestling Podcast listeners, help us out and click subscribe to show your support. And while you're at it, if you're sick and tired of dropping $60 to $100 for the latest, greatest wrestling video game every year, you keep buying the same thing every year. They change, what, 2-3 characters every year? And then you go respend another $60 to $100. Stop immediately. Go to Wrestler Unstoppable, available exclusively through Facebook. Create your wrestler, sign contracts, get involved in storylines, headline pay-per-views, even build your own corporation from the ground up, all included in Wrestler Unstoppable. Available now to all Facebook users. Absolutely free. That's right, free. Stop spending money. Take the free ride. I've been playing it since 2010. It's an amazing game. If you want to become a member of the Fro Wrestling Podcast family and want your name in the shoutouts, like my incredible supporter, Harold in St. Louis, who, by the way, Harold, I'm going to put this out there for everybody. Harold is actually working on a special project with me. I'm very much looking forward to it. Thank you, Harold, for being such a loyal follower and listener. I really appreciate everything he brings to the show. You got to join the Patreon family. Harold is the man. He's our biggest sponsor. You guys need to come in here and join Harold at patreon.com/Fro Wrestling Podcast. Sign up today. And for the month of March, we're into March already. This is the month of my anniversary. It's a big month for me. Anybody who contributes $25 this month will co-host an episode of Going Live with me, and our $10 a month contributors, you'll be entered into a drawing to also co-host an episode of Going Live. Hello, everyone, and welcome to this live episode of the Fro Wrestling Podcast. Don't forget, there's fan voting going on. We are into the final four of the greatest superstar of the Monday Night Wars. I did not see this final four being the end result of the tournament. I'm very fascinated with the votes. I absolutely never thought that I would see Yokozuna upset Hulk Hogan and head into the final four. It wasn't close. Yokozuna landslide defeated Hulk Hogan. Tells me how much respect the wrestling community has for Yokozuna. I thought that was really cool. I think the final four matches are awesome. By all means, check those out, and we'll see who you guys pick to be the winner of the greatest superstar of the Monday Night Wars. I'm anxious to see what you guys do. If you want to get questions, comments, anything you'd like spoken about in a future episode. Emphasis on the future episode, okay? Because I got two things going on here. The future episodes are at the Fro Wrestling Sound Off line at 267-642-1160. It is a talk-to-text service. So you call in, you leave a message, it'll convert it to text and send it to us, and we can get your questions and comments and things into a future episode of the Fro Wrestling Podcast. For those who are listening live right now, I want to get you involved in the show as soon as possible. And all you have to do is access the show through the Spreaker app. So there's an app that you can locate either on FroWrestling.com or going to Spreaker.com and doing a search for the Fro Wrestling Podcast. And you can go in and get into their live chat feature, and I can get your questions, comments, and anything you want into the episode as we are here going live. You guys are the driving force behind this show, so anything you have to say, I like to get involved in the actual conversation as much as possible, because that's just what makes this show unique, trying to get the fan perspective as often as possible. If you are new to the Fro Wrestling Podcast, you've never listened before, welcome to the show. We appreciate you taking the time to spend a few minutes with us tonight. And if you want to get ideas about what it is we're going to discuss in upcoming episodes or the current episode, by all means, shoot over to our homepage at FroWrestling.com, where we preview all the topics that are coming to our latest episode. Check it out there. It's a great way to come up with questions and things you want to discuss with me live on the show, or that you want to pose questions through the sound off line going forward. So by all means, check that out if you get the opportunity. We would love to hear from you. New, old fans, doesn't matter. I love all of our fans, all of our listeners. You guys are amazing. So, the big topic, the big news story I want to get to right off the bat are the issues surrounding the WrestleMania main event. For those who have been loyal followers of the Fro Wrestling Podcast, especially all the fans on Facebook, I got to tell you, Facebook has been huge for the Fro Wrestling Podcast. It is our #1 revenue source of traffic. And what I would love to say is thank you to all those Facebook listeners. What I've been trying to do for them, on FroWrestling.com, there is a link at the top of the page that says In Fro's Corner. That's my blog. That's where I put up my articles. Same articles that I put up on the Sports Junkie, THA SportsJunkies101.com. I put those there so you guys can get my narrative and editorial perspective on important issues in the world of professional wrestling. And this week, was the largest traffic week in the history of ProWrestling.com. Thank you to every single person who took a few moments to tune in to read the article I put up in reference to the WWE's issues surrounding The Undertaker. This week, I will be putting up another article that kind of focuses on our main topic tonight, the issues surrounding the WrestleMania main event, tied in a little bit with another topic. We're going to talk about the Intercontinental Championship. So let's get started with the main event. Here is the problem. For those who don't know, there was a huge distribution ring of steroids to various producers, television personalities, actors, actresses, sports athletes, members of Congress, and WWE superstars, allegedly. I gotta emphasize the allegedly, because a lot of times when somebody goes to jail, they'll say anything they can to generate interest in their story and try to get sympathy and things like that. Well, what ended up happening, this guy, Richard Rodriguez, who is a former associate of this wellness performance nutrition or something of that nature, LLC, he has claimed that he has distributed many clients anabolic steroids in WWE and various other media outlets. We discussed this in brief on a previous episode, but the problem is now, normally if these things have no traction, the stories go away by now. People stop talking about it. It's not a big deal. That is not the case with this. This is a very big issue for WWE right now because they don't know what to do heading into their biggest show of the year, because the number one WWE talent that's been named is Roman Reigns. Roman Reigns has a history of steroid situations. He had been suspended previously for a violation of the wellness policy, and perhaps that's when they're talking about. Maybe that's the transaction that we're talking about. And if that's the case, he's already paid his due for that. He was suspended. He lost his championship. He was not promoted for a little while. And that's water under the bridge. However, they're making it sound like this may be new allegations. And if they are, it really does taint everything WWE's done to try to promote this guy. So now here's the issue I have with this whole scenario. There's a independent filmmaker, documentary maker, his name is John Bravo, who is producing a documentary about this steroid company and the clients that they had. And he is claiming that he not only has names, but shipping information, address information, telephone numbers, all this private information, that it does not just emphasize Roman Reigns, but he chose to call Roman Reigns out specifically because Reigns claimed that this did not happen, but that there was even a WWE legend who purchased $1.4 million in anabolic steroids. Now, the reason that this affects WrestleMania is if Roman Reigns, this documentary is supposed to be released very soon. He's finished shooting, he's wrapped up all the filming, and he's just going through his lawyer to make sure whether or not he's going to have legal issues if he puts this information out there. And the problem is this: if you put Roman Reigns in a situation, we find out that Roman Reigns has been doing steroids. Now, I'm not saying he did, but if that is what comes of this report, you've got your biggest show of the year with a doper as one of your competitors. Now, Brock Lesnar failed a steroid, had a steroid violation back when he was in UFC for UFC 200. But that, again, was suspension from UFC. He almost never wrestles for WWE, so it's almost as if that's already been dealt with too. I don't totally agree with that because the guy almost never works, whether he was found guilty or not of steroids. And he's one of the highest paid people in the entire company, making roughly $5 million a year. So that being said, the issue I have is they're not going to push Roman Reigns right now to win that championship if it comes out that he is a steroid user again. But what do you do? So here's the problem. It has a trickle-down effect on the rest of the WrestleMania card, because if Roman Reigns has to be pulled out of that match for some reason, wellness policy violation means he'd be suspended again, and he'd be on the short list to be fired if he failed a third time. I can't believe he'd be that stupid, but if he was, he'd be fired. So what we're looking at here is that they are now, the original plan was for Braun Strowman to face The Miz for the WWE Intercontinental Championship at WrestleMania. The problem is they are now pulling Braun Strowman out of that match and keeping him kind of on the side. I think that a lot of fans, the way we rationalize this is if they don't announce Braun for a match, then in theory, you could put him into the Andre the Giant Memorial Battle Royal if you had to, let him win that, or if at the last minute something comes out. I think Braun Strowman is the one guy that WWE fans would actually be more excited to see defeat Brock Lesnar than Roman Reigns. I'm not saying there's not other talents they wouldn't mind seeing do it. I think if Finn Balor came out and did it, they'd be thrilled. If certain other people came out and did it, they'd be thrilled. But I think Braun is as organically over with the fans as any superstar I've seen in years. It's almost like a Daniel Bryan affection that the fans have for Braun Strowman. They love him. And he deserves, after the year he's had, even Goldberg wasn't built up like Braun Strowman. Goldberg would walk out, squash somebody in 30 seconds, and leave. That's different. Braun Strowman comes out and he'll put on a 40-minute match if he has to, and still squash his opponent and still walk out, arms up in the air, screaming. I mean, he is a unique talent. The monster among men is a stud, and the fans love him. So, the main event at WrestleMania now, there's conversation that Braun Strowman, in some capacity, would either replace or be added to the match with Roman Reigns to ensure that Brock doesn't walk out as champion, nor does Roman Reigns if he's determined to be a steroid user. Braun Strowman would then walk out with the Universal Championship. Now, what does that do for the Intercontinental Championship? Now, there's all kinds of rumors about that. It could be Seth Rollins challenging for the championship. It could be Finn Balor, as we saw on Monday night. The two of them both teased it. It could be a three-way dance or a triple threat, whatever you want to call it. Or the other word is that Elias and Braun Strowman both may be added to the match. One, the other, or both. Make it either a fatal four-way or a fatal five-way. And that way, if you had to, you could pull Braun at the last minute, put him in the world title match, and just have the four-way or whatever. It is too much swirling around the WrestleMania plans for the Intercontinental title and for the Universal Championship. WWE's got a lot of issues on their hands right now. And now, if this comes out that it really is Roman Reigns being a moron and taking steroids again, that's huge. And if I were WWE, if anything, all the screaming from the fans, all the begging from the fans to stop cramming this guy down our throat, if he's found to be a steroid user again and they continue to push him, you are going to see a mass boycott from WWE fans. They're tired of this guy being crammed down their throat to begin with. I actually was sitting there watching Elimination Chamber, and I had people tweeting me that they were turning the matches off before the main Chamber match even went on. That's sad. People pay good money, $9.99 a month for the WWE Network, or the people who don't buy the network, who still only buy sporadic pay-per-views, are paying good money to see a great pay-per-view, and they were bored with Elimination Chamber and turning it off early. That's a problem. WWE needs to start booking really engaging storylines. And by the way, actually, I'm not going to do that. I'm going to leave that for the article. I'm putting up an article within the next 2 days that addresses all these issues and gives you my prediction for if I was booking this, if I was fantasy booking WrestleMania and the Intercontinental Championship, what I would do. And maybe I'm the egomaniac that I am. Maybe I just think I'm a great booker, but I know what I would do. And it'll be in that article. So keep your eyes on FroWrestling.com in Fro's Corner and look for that article where I will tell you what I would do if I was the one booking the Intercontinental Championship situation heading into WrestleMania and Braun Strowman. That is something that needs to be handled very delicately by WWE because they have too many issues surrounding that main event. Other things related to WrestleMania, there are huge negotiations going on all week. The internet community has been abuzz. Rey Mysterio Jr., if you want to take off the Jr., has been negotiating with WWE to potentially work a match against John Cena at the biggest pay-per-view of the year, the Showcase of the Immortals. My issue is this, I don't know what the deal is with The Undertaker. If he really is retired, look, if you're retired, the need to preserve kayfabe and your character and all those things is gone. Just come out and say it. I'm announcing my retirement from in-ring competition. Don't leave us with some stupid one-liner at the Raw 25th anniversary show where it's like, maybe I'm leaving, maybe I'm not. No, just get it done. Because I don't even know if WWE's creative team knows what to think right now. My understanding is that Vince McMahon is the only one in touch with The Undertaker about whether he's coming back or not. Obviously, on Monday night, John Cena, the other big headline this week, was that he teased a match against The Undertaker. He called him out, said he wanted to throw down the challenge, something he should have done years ago, but that he was told that match isn't going to happen. Now, is that a work or is that a shoot? If it's a shoot, then that's sad that we're never going to get to see that John Cena Undertaker match. It's something we should have seen years ago. WWE dropped the ball again. They've done this repeatedly. We had an opportunity to see Hulk Hogan versus Stone Cold, and instead we got Stone Cold against Scott Hall and Hulk Hogan against The Rock. We've had opportunities to see many other dream matches. Bret Hart and Hulk Hogan in '93 after WrestleMania 9 when Hogan took the championship right after Bret Hart lost it. They always have these mega dream matches that could happen. Hogan and Ric Flair, WrestleMania 8, and they don't happen. WWE always wants to cash in on a future match and try to milk it. Well, your booking sucks. So instead of pushing stuff off to book for future pay-per-views, give us the dream matches right away. Because now we're in danger of never seeing John Cena and The Undertaker. They're in danger of never seeing some other matches that could have potentially happened had WWE gotten off their duff and done the right thing for business years ago. That tagline they used to use, best for business, they haven't been doing that for years. Let's take you back a couple years. Why didn't WWE make a bigger push to sign Sting years before they did and put him in the ring with The Undertaker? Another one that we missed out on. Or get Sting to come in and wrestle Shawn Michaels like he should have. Or various people like that. So when I look at WWE's booking and the way they're handling John Cena's match and the Universal Championship match and the Intercontinental title match, it just leaves me with a bitter taste in my mouth heading into WrestleMania season where I don't even know where their head is at right now. And I don't trust their booking to make it any better. It's just my opinion. The other headline I want to put out there is really a personal reflection. The rise and fall of Carmela. Like, seriously, people, I want you to think for a moment. If you go back a year, maybe a year and a half, Carmela was, in NXT. She was honing her craft. Cass and Enzo got called up to the main roster. She got called up a few months later and became a singles diva, and she was doing fine. This women's revolution took over, and after Carmela, with the help of James Ellsworth, wins the first ever women's Money in the Bank, she's been pretty much relegated to nothingness. She's done nothing of importance in 6 months, 8 months. She walks around with a briefcase. You don't see her on television. They focus all their energy on Absolution and Charlotte Flair and Becky Lynch and those people, Naomi, and they do nothing with the women's Money in the Bank winner, the first ever Money in the Bank winner, and they've done nothing with her. They let James Ellsworth go, which in my personal opinion, he was the best part about her gimmick. This dopey guy with no chin who comes out and he helps her win, that was perfect. That was classic heel manager wrestling style storyline. And they get rid of him and then they relegate her to nothingness. At this point, if you're never going to give Carmela an opportunity to be champion, have her cash in next Tuesday on SmackDown and have her lose. Just right away. Just have her cash in and lose. Get the briefcase out of the way and then get rid of her. Let her go. Emma had as much talent as she did and you cut her. Instead, you got this girl who's toiling in mediocrity, hasn't done anything in months that matters, and is carrying around, in the ladies' division at least, the most prestigious briefcase in the industry, and you do nothing with her. And I need to be clear, I'm not bashing Carmela. She is one of the most wonderfully talented female wrestlers in the business. However, WWE, for whatever reason, is hung up on certain other storylines, and I don't get it. Yes, Ruby Riott is fantastic. Yes, Charlotte is amazing. But if you told me 4 months ago, that Carmela was going to cash in, take the title from Natalya or from Charlotte, you've had 3-4 months to put the belt back on somebody else. Her win could have meant something, and then you could have transitioned the title back where you wanted it ahead of WrestleMania season. Now, what is she going to do? Wait till Mania? Wait till Charlotte, retains or loses the Women's Championship and cash in at Mania? Or is she going to go cash in on the Raw Women's Champion when Asuka and Nia Jax face off? Because it sounds like that's what's going on there. Like, what are they going to do here? It doesn't make any sense to me. And it's done nothing but hurt the career of Carmela because she deserved a run as Women's Champion just simply because she's the first ever Women's Money in the Bank winner. I don't care what the circumstances around the win were. That's how you build a concept. What do we do next year? We go into the next Money in the Bank pay-per-view and somebody wins the women's Money in the Bank briefcase and it's supposed to mean something? Why? The last one didn't. What are you going to do? Give it to Bayley and have her cash in as a heel, or Sasha Banks cash it in as a heel? We've done all that to death. Carmella's done nothing. Give her the spot and do it soon because you're running out of time. Going to move on to all the other news. I've gotten all my frustrations out for our big headlines this week, but there's a lot of other things going on, including Ronda Rousey's WrestleMania match, which sounds like it's set now that Triple H and Stephanie McMahon will take on Kurt Angle and Ronda Rousey at WrestleMania, which tells you, obviously, The Rock could not get clearance to be there. They decided not to do the Braun Strowman angle because they need him, again, impacting that Universal title match. Thank you, Roman Reigns, if you did anything. Or thank you to this moron in prison if he didn't do anything. Messing up all the Mania plans. Now, I'm fine with Kurt Angle being in that match, but that takes Kurt Angle out of the Seth Rollins match, which I was actually kind of looking forward to. Now we got Seth Rollins in the Intercontinental picture. You see how the dominoes fall? But Ronda Rousey's match actually set now for WrestleMania. I'm sure they'll announce it soon. It'll be great to see her in the ring. Another tidbit from WrestleMania, though, is Brock Lesnar. I've gotten mixed reviews about this. I've heard that he no-showed Raw. I've heard he was told not to come to Raw. I've heard that there's heat with him because he appeared with Dana White in Las Vegas wearing a UFC shirt, and that he's negotiating for an MMA return. Dana White was out this week saying it's very, very, very likely that he'll be fighting for UFC before the end of this year. Who his opponent will be, I'm not sure. There was all these pieces I found online this week, various media outlets talking about who he could potentially go against, and there's a lot. The heavyweight division really is hurting right now for talent, so there's a lot of people you could put against Brock Lesnar right now and really become a draw. But either way, he clearly is negotiating with Dana White. But now I also heard, through a reliable source, I want to say, may have been the Wrestling Observer, that they're thinking that what could be happening here is him appearing with Dana White and all that banter, maybe a way for him to drive up his price with WWE should he re-sign with WWE. His contract runs out after WrestleMania. They could extend it to August. I don't know if they'll do that. But he's clearly in negotiations with both WWE and UFC, which I find bizarre because he has an existing UFC contract. There's no negotiation to be there. He still has fights remaining on his previous deal. So there's no reason for them to renegotiate. He didn't finish out his old contract to begin with. However, I think the best plan for Brock Lesnar would be to negotiate either more appearances for the same amount of money or the same number of appearances for less money with WWE to help the brand. But we know Brock Lesnar has been a selfish character for years. So I don't see him conceding any money, which I think may be a big turnoff for WWE. I think he may overvalue his value to the company, and it may not be something they're willing to do. Now, one thing that may make them want to do it is our update on Bobby Lashley, who, according to news outlets, both the Wrestling Observer, Wrestling Inc., eWrestling News, Cage Side Seats, all of them. There's my shout out to all you websites, people. Everything I talk about, you could probably find a similar story on those web pages, with exception of the Carmela thing, because that's my own. But when they were talking about this topic, the conversation came. Oh, hold on a second. I got somebody popping into our chat. See, thank you, whoever's popping into our chat function. I appreciate that. But by the way, go to Spreaker.com or ProWrestling.com if you want to get on the chat. And somebody's asking me here, do I think that they really are going to let Brock Lesnar walk? I don't think it has anything to do with Brock Lesnar wanting or not, or them wanting him or not wanting him to walk. I think Brock Lesnar is not a pro wrestler. Brock Lesnar is a businessman. He knows he's got a talent. He knows he's got something to offer, and the WWE is willing to pay big dollars for it. I don't think they want him to walk. What I think is, if he walks, is because he doesn't want to stay. He's not passionate about this business. That kind of stuff should be obvious. Back when he did the interview with Stone Cold Steve Austin on the Stone Cold podcast, after Raw, what was it, last year? I think it was. It was very obvious. Maybe it was a year before that at this point. He was very obvious. He's not a passionate wrestling fan. He's not a huge student of the game. He doesn't follow it outside of his own stuff. He shows up, he wrestles, he leaves. Like, he's not Bret the Hitman Hart. He's not Ricky the Dragon Steamboat or Ric Flair or Hulk Hogan or any of those guys who love the business and live the business and they are a part of the business all the time. He comes in, he works a job, he goes home. And he's apparently, look, if he's content with that and if WWE wants to pay for that, more power to you. I'd rather elevate somebody who actually cares about the business. That's what I would rather do. Somebody who wants to be true to the traditions of the business. Which, speaking of being true to the tradition, the Aldis Crusade, which is Nick Aldis, the current NWA World Heavyweight Champion, who's on that mission. He's going to face 20 different challengers for the NWA Championship over a 60-day period. And it's been announced that in Japan, he'll be facing Colt Cabana as his next opponent. I can't tell you the level of respect I have for Nick Aldis. I've actually been talking to him through email. Thank you, Nick, for all the contributions you've given me, conversation online. He's a great guy, and he really cares about the history and tradition of the business, bringing it back to old school, respecting the world champion, and being a world champion who travels to every continent around the world. This crusade, the Aldis Crusade, is going to take place over 5 continents. That's fantastic. It brings so much awareness to the NWA World Championship, awareness that it hasn't had in an extraordinarily long time. Going back all the way to 1988 when WCW was formed, when Turner bought out Jim Crockett Promotions. So hopefully This continues. Having Billy Corgan at the helm of the NWA seems to be a positive thing. So hopefully we'll get to see it. By the way, if anybody didn't see it, James Ellsworth challenged Nick Aldis for the championship only a couple weeks ago on Championship Wrestling from Hollywood. You can find that match on YouTube. Check that out because it's actually a really cool match. I enjoyed it. It was very solid, especially considering we haven't got to see James Ellsworth wrestle a meaningful match in close to a year. So it's nice to see him in the ring and doing something of substance. More Mania plans. Talk about the Raw Tag Team Championship. It looks like there may be plans. Now, this, do not quote me as this being fact, but here's what I've heard. That originally we're thinking that Jeff Hardy would be back in time for Mania and that the Woken Hardys or Broken Hardys could challenge for those tag team titles. So that sounds like the tentative plan. However, this week, there's been talk of having an Ultimate Deletion match at WrestleMania between Matt Hardy and Bray Wyatt. I feel like that feud has been done to death. You'll put the fans to sleep at the biggest show of the year. Please do not give us another Matt Hardy, Bray Wyatt match. And if you're going to, just do it on Raw and get it done. I would much rather see the Hardys come out and take the titles from the Bar a year after doing it the first time. I think, Matt Hardy's character, he's not going to be elevated to Intercontinental Champion. He's certainly not going to be World Champion. So the Tag Team Championship is the most likely spot for him to get any kind of traction from a championship perspective. That or move to SmackDown, but that'll happen. If that happens, would be after Mania anyways. But that sounds like the plan right now is for the Hardys to challenge for the Tag Team Championship unless they do the Ultimate Deletion. Some other people in other news, Walter and Keith Lee, both independent talents, huge names on the indie scene. They've wrestled every Pro Wrestling Guerrilla. They've gone for CZW. They've done things for Evolve and Progress Wrestling and various independents all over the world. And both were allegedly offered WWE contracts this week. Now, they put out tweets afterwards kind of refuting those reports. Now, for those who don't know, if you're going to be wrestling for WWE, it's very tight-lipped about who you can talk to and who you can't. I felt so privileged last year that the day before Donovan Dijak's signing with WWE was announced, he did an interview with us. You could still catch that interview on our feed, so check that out, Donovan Dijak shoot interview. But once they sign, they can't just do interviews anymore. And these guys, and you got to protect what you're heading into. They are not going to come out and be like, yeah, you're right, I got a deal offer, I'm going to sign it, I'll be there in a couple weeks, it's all good. It's not going to work like that. Of course they're going to deny it. Which makes you wonder, are they denying it because it's not true, or are they denying it for kayfabe because they don't want to get in trouble with their new promoter? My opinion, I know some people hate it that WWE seems to just be buying up talent, but that's how WWE got started in the first place. Back when their product was solid, it was because they went out and bought all the major talent in all the major promotions. Walter and Keith Lee would be great additions to the roster. They would help bolster NXT again because there's going to be a talent raid right after WrestleMania of the NXT roster, so you better bring somebody in who could fill that void, and Keith Lee and Walter would be two people who could do that. That's part of why they brought in Ricochet, and War Machine is waiting to debut, and EC3 is going to be there, and all these other people, because there's going to be a raid on talent, and you're going to need somebody to fill that void. Walter and Keith Lee would be two people who could help fill that void. I want to touch on something I read this week that I thought was fantastic. Darren Young was doing an interview, and he spoke about something I thought was very inspiring. He said that when he first, for those who don't know, Darren Young came out. He is an openly gay wrestler in a time before it was so accepted. I'm not saying it was all that long ago, but in the mass media, no other pro wrestler had been well received after they came out, which is sad in a lot of ways. And he was very clear that when he came out, the night that he came out, CM Punk went up to him, stood him up, shook his hand, gave him a hug, and told him how proud he was of him, that he was inspired by what he had done. And if anybody gave him a hard time, to come get him. I think that is awesome. CM Punk gets a lot of flack for sometimes not always doing the right thing, but that situation, he was doing the right thing. And I think it's awesome that CM Punk took the time to talk to somebody who had to be in a situation where they weren't sure what their future was going to look like, and to go and offer him some words of advice and support, I think came at the right time. And I think it's one of the classiest stories I've heard about a prime pro wrestler going to a mid or undercard guy and really offering support in a way like that. That is phenomenal. CM Punk, awesome guy. Huge match announced for New Japan Pro Wrestling's return to Long Beach. We've been talking about the matches that are going to be on the card. We already know Rey Mysterio will be there taking on Jushin Thunder Liger. We know that Cody will be there. We know that the Bullet Club will be there. Well, now the Golden Lovers, which are Kota Ibushi and Kenny Omega, will be there to take on the Young Bucks. which I think is going to be a fantastic match. Of course, this week, the Golden Lovers coming out saying they were the greatest tag team in the world. The Young Bucks coming out and say they're part of the heavyweight division, and they took issue with the Golden Lovers saying that. So now the match is signed. It'll be at New Japan Pro Wrestling's return to Long Beach. We'll get to see the Young Bucks take on Kenny Omega and Kota Ibushi, the Golden Lovers, and it should be a fantastic match. I'm a little surprised that Cody and Kenny aren't headlining the show, but at the same time, what are you going to do with some of the other talents? Tetsuya Naito should be there. Kazuchika Okada should be there. I would love to see some of them put into a more high-profile match. Jay White, the new IWGP United States champion, will be there. You've got people like Minoru Suzuki, who's got to bring the IWGP Intercontinental Championship to the show. So a lot of matches yet to be announced, but it looks like the card is shaping up to be a fantastic one, just like last year. Their first Long Beach show was amazing. I can't wait to see this one. I will note this. It was stated this week that there's a major star missing from all the WrestleMania promotional material, and that superstar is The Undertaker. Somebody made note that there's poster going out and promotional materials going on different cable media outlets, going to the arena itself, and nothing features The Undertaker. Now, The Undertaker was in Knox County, Tennessee this week, helping promote Kane or Glenn Jacobs in his run for mayor, and there were fans who asked him about his in-ring return. You know, is he really secretly coming back? Is he going to face John Cena and things of that nature? And he pretty much was very nonchalant about it and told him, don't hold your breath. It's not happening. Which you got to ask yourself, is he just being honest? Or is he trying to keep the mystique there so when he does show up, it means more? I don't know how to look at that. I certainly hope we haven't seen the last of The Undertaker because there are dream matches waiting to happen. But his conversation there and lack of appearance on the promotional material tells me that he may not be making this year's show. And if that's the case, maybe he's taking a year off. Maybe he'll come back next year, but there's only so many years left where he's going to be able to be effective and garner the same level of attention from mainstream media the way he would right now. Big cross-promotional show is coming at WrestleCon, the weekend of WrestleMania. It has been announced this week that Impact Wrestling has paired with Lucha Underground to bring a joint co-promoted show to WrestleCon. I can't wait to hear what the match card lineup is. But whatever it is, when you put those two rosters together and the unique storytelling ability of Lucha Underground combined with Impact Wrestling, who, whether you notice it or not, they actually have a pretty talented roster. There's really the recipe for some great matches, and I'm really looking forward to seeing what they do with that co-promotional show. I hope they start announcing matches. That would be very helpful. And I hope it's all Impact versus Lucha Underground guys, because that's stuff we won't see anywhere else. If you're just going to have a bunch of Impact matches and a bunch of Lucha matches, we could see that. We could see that any week you turn on either one of the programs. But if you cross-promote all matches or, an Impact talent versus a Lucha talent, that could be something to watch. That could be amazing matchups that we've never seen before, matchups that we're dying to see. Speaking of things that we are dying to see, there's been an update this week on the status of Neville and his negotiations with WWE. It sounds as though WWE is not willing to grant him his release, which we've reported in the past. And we already know that there was an opportunity back in November to negotiate and bring him back to the brand ahead of Survivor Series. But those talks were broken off. They broke down and things were not happening. And now they're saying that the conversations are back on, that Neville could be back with the company by April, potentially in time for WrestleMania. Now, maybe because Triple H is a part of, he took over 205 Live. Maybe Neville has more confidence in what Triple H is going to book him in. Or maybe he wants a main roster push as a non-cruiserweight wrestler, which I would be hugely in favor of. If you could put Finn Balor out there against the Monster Among Men, why couldn't you put Neville? Neville arguably was the best in-ring performer in the entire year last year, and he was a cruiserweight, pigeonholed by a brand that most people weren't even watching. It's time to give Neville an opportunity to rise to the top of the card where he really belongs. He's done everything he can do for that cruiserweight brand. There is no reason, none whatsoever, that he should be going to that brand, back to the cruiserweight brand again. He's done that. Been there, done that, got the t-shirt. It's time to move on, and hopefully WWE sees the sense in booking him as a main wrestler. There are so many feuds that he could contribute to that would be fantastic. That's all the time we have for this episode. Check back with us in our next episode where we run down all the latest wrestling news and rumors. Special thanks as always go out to bensound.com and purpleplanet.com for producing any music and sound effects that we use throughout today's show. Today's podcast was sponsored in part by Beazle Games. Bringing a new friend to family game night is easy with sketchy people. Showcase your artistic side in this new game from Beazle Games by going to www.frowrestling.com and clicking the icon in the middle of the screen. And to alleyrepair.com. Contact Alley Repair today for servicing of all your classic skee-ball, pinball, and arcade game needs. If you're looking for your next career move and you're considering college, university life, or you just need some formal training for your next career decision, go to our website. Our alternate website is www.frolifeplanning.com for all your higher education needs. Fro Life Educational Planning is for today, for tomorrow, and for life with Fro Life. I'm Fred Froelich, better known as Mr. Fro, and I want to thank you so much for taking a few moments with us today. And if you're looking for more wrestling news and rumors, go to www.sportsjunkies101.com for the latest articles on the world of professional wrestling. If you want, check out In Fro's Corner for similar articles on frowrestling.com. We'd love to have you there. And otherwise, everybody take care, and I will see you next episode. Have a great night.